Hi, I'm Larry Gifford, host of the podcast When Life Gives You Parkinson's and program director of CKNW Radio. We hope that you're all keeping well during these unprecedented times. And while the world battles COVID-19, the organizers for Porridge for Parkinson's North Shore are eager to get back to the business of finding a cure for Parkinson's, as am I. We are closer than ever, but research takes funding, which is why you're here. While an in-person Porridge for Parkinson's was derailed by the coronavirus, we can virtually say hello to each other. We can literally make our own porridge at home, and we can actually write really big checks. So let's do that. I am pleased to introduce our special guest for Porridge for Parkinson's, Dr. Silke Cresswell. Hello, Silke.
Hi, Larry. Lovely to see you.
Dr. Cresswell holds the PPRI's Marge Meikle Professorship in Parkinson's Research and is an Associate Professor of Neurology at UBC. You are eating your own porridge today? How's it taste today?
I did, yes, with chia seeds and blueberries. It was delicious.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Mine wasn't as good. I can't wait till next year we can get together in person. PPRI has supported your research on brain wellness and microbiome. How important are events like Porridge for the research community?
Oh, absolutely crucial. I think it's a grassroots event, which means that it's not only about raising money, but it really is about spreading the message, getting the community activated, getting the community together, and just really finding your team to battle this disease. So I think it is so much more than fundraising. Having said that, the fundraising is obviously absolutely crucial too. And as you know, we've had quite a few projects where we could start research that was really new, like the microbiome. When we started this, there was really not much happening yet, and now it has exploded. And we could get ahead of the gate and just really drive that. So it's crucial. I can't overstate it.
That's one of the great things about PPRI is they're investing in this cutting edge research that other organizations may not be ready to throw their money behind, but it helps you get a start, which is really crucial.
Absolutely. And, I think the microbiome project, that's of course the one that I can speak to the most, has really shown that how we started with initial pilot funding, and that has then led to more funding. And now we've of course got publications and we've got trainees. So we're also training the next generation. With the data that we've collected, we now see other directions in research in addition to the microbiome. So for example, with nutrition, so it really is absolutely crucial and opens amazing opportunities. And I'm of course very grateful, but I'm also really proud to have Marge Meikle, the professorship, because she is just such a shining example of getting the community together and just having this grassroots engagement. And I'm very much about community. So for me, this is, I've count myself really fortunate and very grateful to you all out there.
So you talk about getting published with the microbiome. Just in May, there was a paper that came out. Can you tell us about what that was about?
Yes, so we have 300 people, give or take, who participated in that research. And so what we published, of course, was the composition of the microbiome in the gut. In fecal samples. So it is a question of who is there, which bugs are there. And then there are a lot of other factors associated with that, because we would like to try and figure out, okay, we by now know that the microbiome, so which bugs are there, is different in people who have Parkinson's compared to who don't have Parkinson's. What we're trying to figure out is how does that link as a mechanism to Parkinson's? And there are many different possibilities on how that links. One of them is through the immune system, so through driving inflammation, or it could be through products, so metabolites, that messenger products that the microbes make, that triggers a response from the host. There are many other possibilities as well. And so what we found with our research, and that is what we published recently, is that yes, the composition is indeed different. So the bugs that we see in people who have Parkinson's are different. They are also more likely to drive inflammation. in the whole body. They are more likely to make the lining of the gut less of a secure barrier, so there is leakiness of the gut, meaning that the inflammation and other things that shouldn't seep into the gut wall can seep in. And then also, and that was really the crucial finding of that paper, we looked at blood samples. So not even fecal samples, but blood samples, blood now going everywhere in the body. And we found a whole range. There were over 40 that we looked at more closely of products that we could find in the blood that were of bacterial origin, so that they weren't made by the human host, but were made by the bacteria. Two of them really stood out, and particularly those two, were much higher in people with Parkinson's in the blood than in people who did not. And so now, of course, we're going to take the next steps and look at, okay, we knew because those particular items or those particular products had been found already in the CSF, so in the water that our brain swims in another study, as higher in Parkinson's. So it is very likely that those metabolites actually make it to the brain. And they are also known to be toxic. So they are not good for you, not good for the brain. And so now we're looking at, of course, how does this all hang together, and what can we do about that, of course. So that was one paper. And the other paper that is currently under review, but we have published it on one of those pre-publication servers to share data and just put it out there, although of course it's not published yet, but we very much believe in data sharing and making sure that the turnover is quick. And that has been that nutrition plays an enormous role potentially. We looked at those 300 people and they filled in a very, very detailed diet questionnaire. So what they were eating in a month, give or take. And then we scored that. Everything they said, over 140 different items that they scored on. And we looked at patterns. And there's something, and it's called the MIND diet. It's built on the Mediterranean diet, but even more optimized for brain health. And it was developed really for Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. And it hadn't been looked at in Parkinson's disease. And so we looked at people who now already had Parkinson's disease, so our subset of people who had Parkinson's disease out of those 300, and looked at, okay, if you adhered closely to that diet, so if you had a good diet, how did that compare to people who did not have a particularly good diet? And how does this compare to the age of onset of Parkinson's? And we found something very interesting, and it was highly significant. And that was that people who adhered closely to that diet, so had a diet that was close to this Mediterranean type diet, had their onset of Parkinson's quite a bit later. Wow. And that was particularly true for women. So in men, we found a difference of 6 years between the third that adhered more closely to the diet compared to the third that did not. And in women, it was a decade. That's wow. A decade without Parkinson's. Now, at this point, that's a correlation. So we have to now do the intervention, do a trial where people eat a particular diet, and we'll look at what exactly that is, and see how they're doing going forward. So that is obviously our next big project. We have to write the grant and get the funding. So, but the pilot data we have, there is nothing. I mean, we have nothing to influence Parkinson's like that. We know exercise is crucial, and I'm absolutely a proponent of exercise. I prescribe it to everybody in the clinic, and this is really crucial. But if we had another one like diet that we can now do, best of course in combination with exercise, that has that potential, that would be a bit of a game changer. And the best thing is we can all do it.
So the diet part of it, is that obviously that's preventative because it's holding back the onset of Parkinson's. But once you have Parkinson's, what does the diet do for you?
So we don't know whether it can slow Parkinson's down. That is a study we need to do. That is the next thing.
I'm assuming it does.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong, right? Because, the worst case scenario is it doesn't, but then you're not worse off than you are today. Right. Best case scenario is it does help, which would be great. So right. We need to test that.
because a lot of people are recommending the Mediterranean diet because that's what we want to know. We want advice. Like how should we live? And so you're going to do that research and find that out. I know Dr. Lori Mishley's done a lot of research in the States on that. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how nutrition, what role that plays, and how we can live a better life with Parkinson's as you go about finding the cure for it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, talk about brain wellness. How do you define brain wellness?
So for us, the definition is any of it's often called lifestyle factors, but I'd say those are the fundamentals of brain health. So choices we can make in our everyday life, how we live our lives, that help to maintain and enhance brain health. And those lifestyle factors are, of course, exercise, there are nutrition, there are sleep, there are things like stress reduction. So, for example, for mindfulness, there are ongoing learning, lifelong learning, there are being creative probably. We need to do research into all of these, of course. And so the beauty of that is that they can be used in complement to our traditional medical approach. So I'm not telling somebody to not take their medication, because we need the medication to put the brain into the best possible position to then benefit from exercise and do the exercise and learn, because we need dopamine for learning, so you can't do it without. But they are very powerful, I think, as we are seeing now from the data coming out, including from what we just discussed. They're potentially really very powerful ways to help brain health. And importantly, they are things that we can all do every day. Now, the downside is you actually have to do it, and you have to continue doing it. And that, of course, is always the challenge, right? But it's like medication. Even if you stop taking levodopa one week, you can't expect it to work the next week when you're not taking it anymore. So I think it would be a bit unfair to say, well, you have to keep doing it for it to work. Yeah, that's probably true for most things. And I think this is being helped by making it much more the new normal, by creating a community of people who are really passionate about it, by creating the opportunity to learn about it, to participate about it. And that is why I'm so really absolutely passionate about our brain wellness program, which is now completely online thanks to COVID. We are reaching the entire province and beyond, and enabling people to make those choices and find that community.
And the Brain Wellness Program is about to celebrate 1 year, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Just really, it's a phenomenal program. And what I love about it is that it's not just about exercise, but it's about, it's music, it's dance, it's yoga, it's improv comedy. It's like there's so many cool things that you can choose to do. I think there's a writing program coming this fall. I know my wife's going to be leading it. Yeah. I'm clairvoyant that way. But there's so many cool things that are coming up and that can really enhance the brain and make you well. And so it's really been neat to see that really evolve in the last year. I mean, how would you assess 1 year in where you are and where you hope to be?
Yeah, I have to say, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant. It's been an absolute whirlwind. We've obviously been working at that towards that launch last October, for quite a bit, and then it launched, and then it has only grown since. In a way, thanks to COVID, we now have actually been developing much faster in some of the areas than we thought we would, because instead of a reasonably local program for people to attend in person, with a future plan to take it online and to then also develop satellite centers in other parts of the province, we were forced to, and we did this within 2 weeks. We had everything online. We just did the program online, and it has massively grown in terms of what we can offer. So the variety and breadth of the different programs that we have. We've got numerous different levels of exercise, anything from seated exercise to quite hardcore exercise. And so I think we we grew much faster due to that, and so I have several hundred people who've been participating, and we're very, very grateful to the donors who saw that vision and have been really, really supportive, and because of that, we can offer it for free. And so the next step now is that with the experience, we've had focus groups of participants, people with brain conditions, care partners, anybody healthy aging wanting to take care of their brain, who have given us feedback. And so we're taking that now, and of course, because we're a university and a health program, we of course want to do research, and this is our task. And that's really important because you need to have those numbers, you got to have those results to then go to, for example, the province and say, look, this is actually helping people, these are the outcomes and this is what you can gain from that. But those are of course programs we need to, and research programs that we need to do in order to get that insight. And I think this is also really quite novel because it's just very interdisciplinary and it creates community.
Yeah, it's very special. I'm going to try to wrap all this together. So we have microbiome, which are bugs, basically not big bugs, they're very small bugs,
yeah.
that are in our system. We've got nutrition, we've got brain health. If you're exercising and you're doing improv comedy and you're listening to great music and you're eating healthy, can that affect your microbiome?
Yeah, so you're touching on something really important. It looks like we've talked about many different things here, but they actually do hang together. Nutrition is probably the most important determinant of the composition of the microbiome, and therefore also what they can produce. So that is an immediate link. So when I talk about doing now dedicated studies into nutrition after we got this really interesting data from the microbiome study, this obviously will include looking at the microbiome, looking at inflammation, looking at brain connectivity, etc. So it really brings all these things together. Exercise can also influence your microbiome. Both of them then can influence sleep. So all these things actually hang together. What we have traditionally done in a much more linear research model is we take one component, we change that, and then we look at how that influences a chain of things. And what we kind of ignored, we might have collected some of that data, but what we kind of ignored is how this all hangs together as a network. And if I change one component, how all these others change with it. So it is also a somewhat different way of approaching the question. And I think it is actually much more realistic. It is much more related to to the choices we make in everyday life.
And to think all this started initially with some foundational money from the donors of PPRI.
Exactly. Completely true. This is, and honestly, I think that is just the beauty for me. I'm counting myself very lucky, and I have to go back to Mark on that as well, because she is such a community organizer and grassroots person. It is that community that makes that possible, and I think that is what makes us strong.
Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing for the Parkinson's community and all the research you're doing. Is there anything I'm missing here?
No, just come enjoy the porridge, and it's fantastic for everybody to be part of the team. And if you haven't signed up for the Brain Wellness Challenge, the Summer 2020 Challenge, do that now. Head to the BC Brain Wellness website and you can sign up there. It's 6 activities, 6 brain healthy activities each week for 6 weeks. And we'll have some prizes as well. So you engage in exercise and creative activities, nutrition, community, ongoing learning, etc. And it's going to be fun.
That's awesome. Thank you again so much. And thanks for being here for our virtual Porridge for Parkinson's.
Thank you, Larry. And thank you for everything you do too.